La mesa redonda tendrá un componente plurilingüe. Hemos decidido que lo más sensato, lo más lógico, teniendo en cuenta que esto es un seminario sobre internacionalización, que libremente la gente decida en qué lengua quiere hablar, siempre que sea comprensible para el público en general. Y Cristina Escobar dice que hablará en catalán. Entonces, bueno, no sé lo que hará, pero imagino que… ¿Por qué no? Bueno, en cualquier caso, el esquema de la charla será que cada uno presente su ámbito de actuación en el tema de la formación del profesorado en la internacionalización y, como digo, escogerán la lengua de trabajo y a lo mejor hasta mezclaremos y haremos aquí un translanguaging y luego lo mismo, las preguntas se harán en la lengua que consideréis más cómoda para vosotros. También la idea era explicar nosotros, pero la idea es tener un turno de preguntas amplio, es decir, no ocupar todo el tiempo y luego decir, ay, no hay tiempo para preguntas, sino todo lo contrario. Estar abiertos a las distintas intervenciones vuestras. Presento brevemente a los miembros de la mesa. A mi derecha tengo a Cristina Escobar, de la Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, que pertenece a la Facultad de Educación. Precisamente va a hablar sobre el tema de la formación de los maestros de primaria infantil en el tema de los docencia en inglés. A su lado está Anna Steele, de la Universidad Complutense de Madrid, y ella también pertenece a la Facultad de Educación y más o menos ellas son las especialistas, va a hablar en esa misma línea y también es coordinadora Erasmus. Aquí a mi izquierda tengo a Matthew Banks, que es de la Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, y él y yo seremos los que hablaremos del tema de la formación del profesorado de áreas no lingüísticas, es decir, no docentes o no de la Facultad de Educación estrictamente, sino qué formación damos a los profesores, a lo mejor los que no sois del ámbito, a lo que llamamos profesores de contenido, a los que son de áreas no lingüísticas en la universidad, todo relacionado con la internacionalización. Entonces, sin más dilación, le cedo la palabra a Cristina Escobar.
Pues muchas gracias, Emma, gracias por la invitación, por estar aquí. Me apetece muchísimo compartir lo que han sido nuestras experiencias con todos vosotros. Y bueno, la broma del catalán pues a lo mejor es menos broma. Yo siempre digo que soy nativa monolingüe y que me he trilingüizado por el camino y entonces a veces me confundo de lengua y no sería la primera vez que hablo catalán donde no toca, por tanto vosotros me hacéis un guiño y yo a lo mejor me doy cuenta o si no, no me doy cuenta y sigo hablando en lo que no toca. Bueno, no sé la razón de elegir esta facultad como ámbito donde celebrar este acontecimiento, evento. Seguramente es por motivos logísticos, pero me parece que metafóricamente está muy bien. Me parece que está muy bien porque muchas veces demasiado a menudo, todo lo que se refiere a IMI y a CLIL parece que sea un asunto de personas que nos ocupamos de las lenguas, de lingüistas o de didactas de la lengua, etc. Entonces, venir a una facultad de Físicas, que es una facultad de contenidos, pues me parece que es interesante y que tiene esta carga metafórica fuerte de decir el IMI, el CLIL, es sobre todo algo que es responsabilidad del profesorado de contenidos, de los profesores de física, de los profesores de contabilidad, etcétera, ¿no? Entonces, quería empezar por aquí. Y quería empezar por aquí también porque la forma de hacer de este profesorado sabemos que es la que hace que un programa IMI sea un programa CLIL la Universidad o ICLE o como lo queríamos llamar, es lo que hace que sea un programa de más éxito o de menor éxito. Sabemos que el éxito completo no existe, pero sí que sabemos que el fracaso absoluto sí que existe y por tanto, donde nos movamos, pues está ahí. Yo no sé cuántos de vosotros venís de facultades de educación y sabéis cómo son. ¿Podéis levantar la mano los que trabajáis o tenéis alguna relación? Pocos. Bueno, vale. Bien, los que habéis levantado la mano sabéis que nos movemos en unos grados en los grados de formación de maestros que están muy determinados por el currículum que impone el Boletín Oficial del Estado de 2007, y que en este currículum, en las competencias meta del profesorado, las lenguas extranjeras prácticamente no existen. En el currículum de educación infantil, de unas 60 competencias meta, hay una que dice saber iniciar a los niños en la apreciación de las lenguas extranjeras, una cosa así, y el currículum de primaria dice saberse expresar oralmente por escrito en lengua extranjera, pero sin ninguna precisión, con lo cual significa, en el torrente de competencias meta que hay, significa prácticamente nada. En mi facultad, cuando se hizo el plan de estudios derivado de esta orden ministerial, pues el inglés quedó reducido a la casi nada absoluta, excepto por la mención. Pero claro, hacen falta muchos más maestros con competencias en inglés que los que la mención puede generar cada año, y una parte de la facultad entendió que había que hacer algo más, y dado que no había créditos para enseñar más inglés y además había una convicción muy fuerte de que la Facultad de Educación no podía convertirse en una academia de lenguas, se optó por la vía de ofrecer uno de los cuatro, tenemos 4 grupos paralelos que hacen que el grado de educación primaria, que estudian el grado de educación primaria, pues ofrecer uno de estos grupos en inglés, también un poco presionados o bastante presionados por el Departamento de Enseñamiento en aquel momento. Y bueno, esto se hizo, se planificó desde el decanato, haciendo a idea una propuesta sin contar con las personas que se supone que entendíamos de la materia. Y se hizo expresamente de esta forma. Y bueno, pues empezó a hacerse el grado, y una vez que ya estaba en funcionamiento, una vez que estaba aprobado, etcétera, pues entonces me pidieron que hiciera la coordinación, y mi vinculación con lo que yo os explicaré es porque yo coordiné ese grado los 4 primeros años, la primera promoción completa, 2014-2017, y porque ha sido un grado muy monitorizado y hemos ido haciendo estudios sobre este grado. Lo que yo aprendí con los profesores de contenidos durante este tiempo se puede concretar en 3 grandes áreas, o las preguntas que nos fuimos formulando con el grupo de trabajo que se organizó con el profesorado de contenidos que enseñaba estos contenidos en inglés. La primera era una previa, y es si realmente era una gran idea o no era una gran idea hacer esto para que los alumnos de magisterio, los futuros maestros, aprendan inglés, si la mejor opción pedagógica que tenemos a mano es hacer un EMI, o si no hay otras opciones que sean mejores, porque es un grado internacionalizado, pero no para atraer estudiantes de fuera, porque no vendrán los estudiantes, yo qué sé, de Suecia o de Rumanía para hacer de maestros en Cataluña, sino que serán estudiantes locales los que estudiarán, y su finalidad es que puedan enseñar finalmente en inglés. Entonces, bueno, ¿es esta la mejor opción o no lo es? Y si lo es, bueno, ¿por qué o por qué no? ¿No? Y el éxito o no éxito del grado también nos dimos cuenta que dependía de 2 factores grandes, y era la formación lingüística que iban a recibir esos alumnos, si realmente aprendían algo de inglés o no lo aprendían por el camino, y de la formación pedagógica o didáctica que debían recibir. Lo que hicimos, bueno, fue trabajar conjuntamente, y los resultados de este trabajo, de esta observación, esta autoobservación y heteroobservación, porque también nos observaban desde fuera, pues está, bueno, recogida en parte en este libro, y también tenemos unas publicaciones, algunas cosas que no están publicadas aquí, en una revista, Temps d'Educació, que está escrita en catalán. Entonces, hay problemas a los que no los hemos encontrado solución, o que no, todavía, y que son de difícil solución, y que yo no tengo la respuesta, y que a lo mejor las podríamos compartir con los colegas, ¿no? Una que ya se ha abordado esta mañana bastante y es el profesorado, o sea, los profesores que imparten las asignaturas. Tengo que decir que en su gran mayoría fueron profesores muy, muy dedicados que accedieron a esta docencia de forma voluntaria, con pocos incentivos, aparte de trabajar más, bastante más, tenían pocos incentivos. También tengo que decir que es un profesorado que inicialmente no se planteó, no entendía los retos que tenía delante, y que el principal reto que se plantearon al principio de todo, cuando el grado en inglés se aprueba en febrero, se tiene que poner en práctica el siguiente septiembre, y entre medio, entre el mes de mayo y el mes de septiembre, el grupo de trabajo se constituye y nos empezamos a reunir para ver de qué manera podemos afrontar los retos. Bueno, pues el primer reto que ven los profesores de primero, y yo diría que es el único reto que ven al principio los profesores de primero, es cómo van a traducir los PowerPoints que tienen. Este es el reto que se plantean. Los PowerPoints, que los tienen escritos en catalán o en castellano, entonces resulta que ahora ya no valen porque tienen que ser en inglés. Ese es el primer problema, y hasta que no empiezan las clases en septiembre no se plantean otro problema. Por mucho que yo decía, no, pero bueno, esto es un problema menor, porque al fin y al cabo no se pone a traducir y ya está. Los PowerPoints, siendo que la universidad tiene un servicio de corrección lingüística, que bueno, que tarda un poco, también os lo tengo que decir, pero bueno, que podía dar una cierta tranquilidad. El trabajo lo tiene que hacer el profesor, pero luego viene un servicio de corrección lingüística de los PowerPoints para estos grados en inglés, ¿no? Este era el único problema. Entonces, solamente a partir de que empiezan las clases empiezan a emerger otro tipo de preguntas por parte del profesorado. Emma, ¿me das más tiempo o ya os digo? Ya está. La experiencia continuó y entonces empezaron a emerger otros problemas. Uno muy importante es qué significa hacer docencia universitaria en inglés. Exactamente esto que quiere decir. Quiere decir que yo, profesor, hablo todo el tiempo en inglés y los alumnos hablan en inglés todo el tiempo, y cuando se ponen a hacer trabajo en equipo yo tengo que hacer de sargento y tengo que ir por los grupos y decir que si no hablan en inglés yo los suspendo. Esta es una posición defendida por algunos profesores en el grupo. En el otro extremo tenemos la posición defendida por otros profesores de el todo vale. Yo digo good morning o más bien good afternoon porque son clases de tarde, y a partir de aquí pues pongo la diapositiva y como no me entienden pues yo ya me autotraduzco, sigo en catalán porque ya para qué, ¿no? O sea, ¿no? Es decir, empiezo a traducirme. Entonces esta sería la otra, porque lo importante es el multilingüismo y el valor de la multiculturalidad y el multilingüismo y los derechos. En los dos casos estoy caricaturizando un poco, pero solo un poco. Es decir, estos puntos de vista los tuvimos conjuntamente en el mismo equipo discutiendo, ¿no? Lo importante es el multilingüismo, los derechos lingüísticos de los alumnos. No se puede herir a un alumno diciéndole mejor en inglés, etcétera. La mayor parte del profesorado se situaba en el centro, con posiciones más hacia un lado o hacia otro, ¿no? Entonces hubo que negociar, hubo que estar hablando y nos costó como tres años llegar a acuerdos sobre qué significaba, en nuestro caso, hacer la docencia en inglés. Dentro de toda esta dinámica había un punto muy importante, ¿no? Es decir, ¿qué estamos enseñando nosotros? ¿Estamos enseñando el inglés, el inglés normativo, en nuestro caso, en el grado, o es un inglés lengua franca, ¿no? Porque uno de los argumentos muy fuertemente defendidos por algunas posiciones que teníamos en el equipo es que el inglés no se enseña como una lengua para hablar como, yo que sé, como Shakespeare o como la reina de Inglaterra o como quien queráis, sino que es la lengua de comunicación internacional la que le sirve a un chino para hablar con un rumano o con un checoslovaco, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, esto es una mirada, ¿no? Entonces, desde este punto de vista, pues, digamos, la calidad formal del habla del profesor puede ser una, ¿no? Entonces, yo soy experto en mi materia, Pues esta mañana teníamos una presentación estupenda de teoría de la educación, que es una de las asignaturas que nosotros tenemos en inglés. Bueno, pues desde este punto de vista, la profesora tiene que saber teoría de la educación, la tiene que saber enseñar, y si la calidad formal de su inglés no es muy buena, pues tampoco importa mucho porque es inglés lengua franca. Pero por otro lado, nosotros no estamos formando economistas, ni veterinarios, ni estamos formando médicos que se entenderán o negociarán en inglés o se entenderán con sus pacientes como bien puedan, sino que estamos formando maestros que serán modelos de lengua para los niños. Entonces, ¿dónde nos situamos? ¿Es inglés lengua franca lo que tienen que hacer estos profesores de contenido o es inglés mucho más normativo? Ya sabemos que en el momento en que no son nativos, los profesores no pueden ser nativos y no nativos a la vez, por tanto va a ser una lengua de no nativo, pero evidentemente puedes estar como no nativo más cercano al inglés normativo o menos cercano. Entonces, en este sentido fue objeto y es objeto de debate en mi facultad. Y bueno, dejo las preguntas abiertas. Vale, de acuerdo, gracias.
Gracias, Cristina. Entonces, le damos el turno a Anne Steele.
Sí, soy Ana Steele, soy de la Facultad de Educación. También me hizo gracia estar en esta facultad esta mañana porque yo empecé dando clase de inglés aquí hace muchos años y vi un exalumno mío que es profesor en esta facultad y fue profesor porque mi grupo de alumnos eran profesores de esta facultad en este momento. Dice, ¿qué haces tú aquí? Tal y cual. Porque se fue hace muchos años, yo empecé aquí en la Complutense, en la Facultad de Filología, porque estaba haciendo Filología Hispánica. Después, claro, estando aquí, pues traductora, clases de inglés y luego poco a poco me iba formando tanto aquí como en Estados Unidos en la formación en lenguas extranjeras. Y ahora estoy en la Facultad de Educación y soy la coordinadora Erasmus, con lo cual mi enfoque está clarísimamente hacia la internacionalización. Y el efecto en nuestra facultad es importante, que os voy a contar un poco ahora. Nosotros tenemos un programa que se llama Bilingüe Mención, ¿vale? Entonces hay un grupo que es Bilingüe Mención. Los del grupo Bilingüe tienen un nivel mucho más alto de inglés que los de la mención en general. Y empezaron con el 40-50% de las asignaturas en inglés y ahora pues tienen de 60 y se va a ir subiendo con el tiempo, ¿no? Y los de la mención pues tienen pues algunas asignaturas obligatorias que tienen que hacer, ¿no? Entonces son dos grupos diferentes, ¿no? El problema que tenemos nosotros con el cambio de plan de estudios con respecto al anterior que hubo, ¿no?, en la diplomatura es que tienen mucho menos horas de inglés ahora que lo que tenían antes. Con lo cual, el enfoque en nuestra facultad, sí se han bajado, que es lo que me ponía de ir 80 créditos a 18 a 36, y según si cogen todas las optativas, ¿no? Entonces, vemos una carencia en la formación de profesorado en general, ¿no? Y no solamente en esa universidad, porque ahora está un poco impuesto por el plan de estudios y el ministerio. Con lo cual, nosotros dependemos mucho de la calidad del profesor que tenemos, ¿no?, que se procura emplear personas con experiencia en AICLE, en CLIL, y algunas personas, los asociados sobre todo, que vienen de colegios y están trabajando dentro de lo que es el sistema de colegios bilingües en la Comunidad de Madrid, ¿no? Luego, en las clases nos enriquecemos mutuamente con los Erasmus que vienen de fuera y se apuntan en nuestras asignaturas, porque al ofertar tantas asignaturas en inglés en nuestra facultad, como explicó Irene Solves esta mañana en una de las explicaciones que hubo, nosotros pues vamos desarrollando como una especie de comunidad de colaboración dentro de la facultad y luego pues enriqueciéndonos con los ICUE que vienen de otras partes de España y los Erasmus que vienen de otros sitios de Europa, ¿no? A ver, ¿qué más os puedo contar de nuestra? La colaboración que tenemos con los profesores es muy importante. Entonces, en una sesión anterior también habló de aprendizaje y servicio, Juan Luis, y entonces pues explicó el proyecto de innovación que tienen de aprendizaje y servicio, ¿no? María de Dolores Pérez Murillo ha organizado pues tanto la ponencia de esta mañana, lo que está en Japón ahora, parte de la internacionalización que tenemos en nuestra facultad y no pude estar aquí, si no sería la persona idónea para hablar con vosotros aquí hoy. Ella tiene un proyecto de innovación que es interdisciplinar, con lo cual reúne grupos profesores que dan docencia en inglés y crean proyectos en común. ¿Por qué menciono esto? Porque de alguna forma, al tener tan pocas horas de lengua inglesa, nosotros lo suplimos con el CLIL y con los proyectos interdisciplinares. Esos profesores que dan su asignatura en inglés y, a su vez, crean estos proyectos. Son proyectos que luego los alumnos, como futuros maestros, pueden llevar a cabo en el aula, ¿no? Y entonces, pues los proyectos son, muy interesantes porque son entre arte, música, educación física, psicología de la educación, etcétera. Pero hay otras colaboraciones dentro de la facultad, ¿no? Hay en didáctica de las ciencias con Juan Peña Martínez, Reading to Learn con Isabel García Parejo, que se hace en inglés y en español, ¿vale? O sea que vemos la necesidad de ir pues, fomentando los dos idiomas, porque realmente hay transferibilidad también. Lo que se sabe en la madre lengua se transfiere con facilidad a la segunda lengua, ¿no? El proyecto que presenté yo esta mañana con las prácticas de Erasmus que hacen fuera de España y nos traen mucha información sobre lo que es la educación en Europa. Entonces, pues nos nutrimos de muchas fuentes, de muchos. Y luego, aparte de lo que mencioné de Juan Luis Fuentes, está María Belando, que es la vicedecana de Relaciones Internacionales, que trabaja en este proyecto de aprendizaje y servicio. Y entonces, pues es un poco una introducción en nuestra facultad y hacia donde nosotros vamos. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Anne. Entonces, de alguna manera, por lo que has estado comentando, como no hay suficiente, como has dicho, suficiente exposición al inglés, ¿no? Creáis estos grupos y a lo mejor internacionalizáis el currículum, ¿no? Metéis contenidos internacionales y, digamos, ocasiones de uso en inglés para que haya más prácticas, ¿así? ¿Lo he entendido bien?
Sí, es así. Y luego, pues, como también mencioné, que se apuntan muchos alumnos Erasmus a estas asignaturas, porque son asignaturas que pueden cursar en inglés y luego eso, a su vez, enriquece el nivel de inglés que tienen nuestros alumnos y luego su, pues, futuro como emprendedores, en liderazgo, porque ya tienen un contacto con estas personas que vienen de otras culturas y que nos aportan mucho. Hay una aportación mutua allí.
Perfecto, además se hace más auténtico y tal. El tema de los Erasmus en los grupos, cuando hay internacionalización en casa, muchas veces lo hemos hablado, ¿no? Cómo utilizar los Erasmus a tu favor en lugar de en tu contra, porque yo recuerdo gente que dice es que tengo una clase y ya tengo de por sí 60 alumnos y me meten 15 Erasmus, ya son 75. ¿Cómo hago para que realmente se mezclen, para que la experiencia sea realmente internacional, intercultural? Y, en fin, no es una cosa que ocurra de manera automática, sino que hay que estructurarla adecuadamente y utilizar a los alumnos, ¿no?
Sí, quisiera añadir ahí que nosotros los Erasmus los tenemos en los no bilingües, el no mención en inglés, y su aportación es fundamental. Los que vienen de educación infantil de Suecia nos cuentan las experiencias, cómo se forma en la universidad, cómo funcionan las escuelas allí, que son muy enriquecedores para los alumnos y para nosotros también como docentes, ¿no? Entonces eso repercute, esa internacionalización repercute no solamente en los que se especializan en idioma, sino en todo el alumnado de nuestra facultad.
Perdonad, es un inciso, que están saliendo cosas que como no nos vemos siempre. Precisamente una de las cosas, aprovechando esta mesa redonda, que me gustaría que se llevaran todos los que están aquí y los que trabajamos más cerca lo saben, el tema de la internacionalización no es solamente sobre docencia en inglés. Es una cosa que los que estamos aquí a lo mejor sí lo sabemos porque estamos más metidos, pero sencillamente para que vaya quedando claro que hay muchísimas formas de internacionalizar y que no es solamente grupos en inglés o grupos en una lengua extranjera. Lo que está diciendo Anne es un ejemplo clarísimo de una internacionalización mucho más, no necesariamente como el inglés como lengua internacional. Entonces es el turno de Matthew. He's going to talk about the teacher training programs en la Autónoma.
Hello everyone, I'm Matthew Banks. I work at the forgive me for speaking in English. I hope you can follow. I won't go too quick. First of all, thank you to Emma and the organising committee for the invitation. A little bit like Anna, I worked here as an English teacher for about 7 years in and out of the faculties, so it's nice to be back for a moment or two. I now work in the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid in the Servicio de Idiomas, and in conjunction with the Vice Rectorate of Internationalization and professors in the philology department, I work on an EMI program called Plan Doing, which is Docencia in English, and my introduction will just be a little bit of a description about this, and some of you may be familiar with it. Although the Plan Doing, the EMI course that I'm going to talk about started in 2015, and I've been involved with it for about 3 years, and we've trained or got about 300 lecturers into the process. That's about 20% of the teachers at the Universidad Autónoma. It started about 7 years ago when we had a group of Boston students come to the university, and the faculty involved had no idea what to do. And so they got in touch with teachers in the Servicio de Idiomas in conjunction with Formación Docente to kind of develop something quite quickly, kind of a bespoke course. And so it kind of started there with micro-teaching, peer observation, language support. And so 3 years ago, we decided to make it a bit more systematic. And Plan Doing is an accreditation procedure that has 2 pathways or itineraries. The starting point is we thought that teachers teaching their content in English needed a C1 CEFA level, okay? And so the first itinerary was really to get people up to that level. So teachers, it is an extensive course of 1 year, and it's kind of a threefold aim to get teachers from a B2 plus to a C1, to get them to do a certification exam, a standardized language test, and also to help them with their teaching. So it's quite a lot to do, but this is for the teachers who don't really have the C1 level to get going. Okay, so it's more of it has more language aims than it does have, let's say, pedagogical aims. For those teachers who have a C1 accredited level, they go into an intensive course that we run twice a year. It's a 35-hour intensive course, and it has 3 components. The first being more theory-based, things to do with EMI theory, language tools, and then lots of practice. So the idea is that they're theorizing their practice a little bit. So I'm involved in the micro-teaching end, in the kind of the practice side of things, helping the teachers with peer observation and setting up a context where they can practice with other lecturers, in my case, from different departments. Once they've done the intensive course, this is just the first step, and so they've been filmed and got feedback from peers, other academics, and they've really mixed with other people. They're no longer teaching in isolation. Okay? After they've done that, they are filmed in situ, and they have a collaborative planning tutorial prior to the filming with a language expert like myself, and we talk through their lesson plan, lesson planning is something new for some of these professors. They're much more used to planning the guía docente, the curriculum, the syllabus itself, but not actually kind of micro-planning an individual 50-minute lecture with rationale, aims, and interaction, which is something, if you're a language teacher, that is bread and butter. Yeah? So they're filmed, and their film is analysed by 2 language experts who work together to create a report, and there is a post-filming tutorial where the lecturer reflects on what they've done, and we give them a report and some feedback on their teaching. Okay? To finish the process, there is an interview with a small panel, and they get to kind of sum up the whole process, which could have taken anything between a few months and 3 or 4 years to complete. Yeah? because they have to get 5 or 6 credits of teaching in English to kind of get the stamp at the end. So for some people it's quite a long, protracted process. But so that's my short introduction. I'm particularly interested in the practicalities of the day-to-day teaching in the classroom, things to do with like planning, individual lessons, critical reflection on teaching, and how the lecturers can actually grow in confidence and have the tools to do the best job possible for their students. So I'm going to keep it short because I'd rather have time for questions than to talk too much. That's okay.
Yes. Thank you, Matthew. Okay, so I think it's my turn. I think I'll stick to English as well. Okay. Continue. I'm going to be talking really, it's very connected to what Matthew's been saying. Our course is called Intercom, which stands for Internationalization of Communication Strategies in English Medium Instruction, or I think we called it the International Classroom. It's a course that's been running for 3 years now. This would be the 4th year. And it's basically for pre-service teachers at Complutense, people that have no experience but have already signed up for teaching in English. So there has to be a kind of formal assignment of bilingual, what we call bilingual groups. The first time we did it back in 2015, it was also, we also had in-service teachers, people with experience, because the way internationalization was set up at Complutense was very kind of bottom-up. So we had some institutions, some faculties like economics, like psychology, computer science, and education, that actually had started teaching courses in English, but there was basically no legislation about it. So the first thing that, one of the reasons why I was called in was actually to kind of set up some kind of, if you want, rules and regulations. So one of the things that we did was, okay, let's decide that there's going to be a language level, entrance level for the teachers and also the students, which was already being done unofficially in these institutions, especially with the students as a B2 requirement, but not with the teachers. Now the teachers, it's kind of compulsory to have a C1, but people that have been teaching abroad do not have to certify that. I mean, there's some flexibility. So the course is similar to what Matthew said, although it's shorter. I think one of the differences plan doing is kind of extensive in time. We talked about that. I don't know if we have the right or if this is the best way to do it, but for the time being, we're not doing it so extensive. Ours is kind of, the university's double the size of La Autónoma, it's double. So that also, you know, we have, unfortunately, the resources that we have and especially the human resources. So it's an intensive course, 20-hour course. It's voluntary, all disciplines. Basically, initially we had a lot of people from economics and these pioneering faculties, and now we're having newer faculties join us, which makes it really interesting. So we have people from geography, history, social work, fine arts, philosophy. It's really interesting. It's a very interesting mix. And the fact that people from different disciplines come in makes it even more interesting. Initially, I thought it would be problematic to have people work together in some kind of micro-teaching experience, but I think it's completely the opposite. It's very, very creative. It's mostly pedagogical. It's not linguistic. It's pedagogical because we assume that the teachers already have enough competence, and at the end, they do get a certificate. And in addition to this course, this Intercom, which is for bilingual courses, or bilingual degrees, we have Plan de Formación del Profesorado de la Complutense, which has just started, was implemented for the first time a year ago. And those are, again, short courses that have to do with all kinds of things at Complutense. And one of the areas, we call them one of the areas, is internacionalización de la docencia y la investigación. And maybe some of you have taken some course there. So what where Amy's here, she's one of the teachers working there, a course on conferences, giving conference papers, which is very, highly demanded. And also we have Tom Morton over there, who does the academic writing. And what's happening with these courses, these are shorter. You don't have to be teaching in the bilingual degrees. Basically, you sign up because you want to enroll in that area. You want to improve your academic skills or English language skills. And we're open to suggestions. That's one of the things that I'd like to, say, that we're open to suggestions. There's another one on academic networking it's new and working well. So the idea is that depending on teachers' needs, we actually offer the courses that are demanded. I think that'll be me. So how do we do this? Shall we go into questions, or Cristina, you want to add to?
One question first. Okay. You mentioned infant education. We don't have a bilingual, I'm going to use bilingual, although we don't call it like this. You have infant education as a bilingual course?
No.
No, okay. Because we don't. It's primary education what we have in English in the offer. And the rationale for this is it's not clear, it's less clear in infant education than in primary education that teachers in Catalonia at least should be teaching through English.
Yes, I just mentioned that because of a factor of the internationalization, that even in the English courses that we give to the pre-primary teachers, they also have this contact with people that come from all over the world, which is very enriching for them. And then in la Comunidad de Madrid now, infant education has to offer English. So we have a big question mark there about where are we going? Will there be a mención en inglés or something for these infant teachers? No?
And the question for you was, you mentioned about teaching university teachers to write a lesson plan. Sounds to me like a bit of impossible in my context. If it's a lesson plan of the type that language teachers think with language objectives, and the question is this. The lesson plan you are teaching these teachers to write, do they include language-related goals in the plan and how to implement them? Or what difference does it make to whatever lesson way of planning their lessons that these university teachers who are experts on their field might have?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think Coleman said one of the idiosyncrasies of university teaching is that teachers aren't trained to teach, that we see in the literature quite often. We university lecturers tend to teach how they were taught, and there's been a lot of emphasis on the research, etc. So teaching kind of plays second fiddle. So things, I think in other contexts, most teachers start out with a lesson plan. Certainly where I'm from in the UK, if it's primary, secondary or adult education cookery classes, there's a lesson plan and there's an observation as part of the process. So for the lecturers, it's something really quite new. And you ask, how do you plan your classes? And you go, well, we don't really. We have our guías docentes and we plan our courses and we're thinking about it, but this is absolutely something new. And so often at the outset, at the beginning, there's a little bit of a reaction because, as anybody knows who's written a plan, usually a plan for some kind of one-off class. No, we don't do these developed plans, but when we are being observed, we tend to go to more effort to be explicit about what we're doing. So it's from the starting point, looking at outcomes and aims and kind of looking at the language used to formulate these in terms of cognitive functions. What are you actually doing in your session? What are you getting your students to do? So that's the starting point. And then actually looking at interaction. It all kind of leads in there, looking at interaction, looking at timing, looking at purpose. And so this actual micro focus on what you're doing, which has been practiced in the micro teaching, is, for some, it's a great eye-opener. And it's a great way to get people lecturers to reflect about their practice, which is kind of what it's about. And so for some, it's quite interesting. The people with the greatest reservations tended to be the scientists and going, you know, I don't need to do this. And at the end, they're going, this is a scientific way of teaching. You know, this is taxonomy and breaking things down. And actually, I'm thinking about what's going on in detail. And so, okay, you have your plan and it's abandoned later on, and you might return to your slides as your main source of materials, but it's already been kind of internalized a little bit. Have you got enough time, and what's the purpose of this activity? If you're going to have group work and interaction, it's going to consume your content, and so you may have to flip that and open up a space for other activities. So I think it's been quite a challenge, but overall the attitude to it has changed from being a little bit kind of, what are you asking me to do here, to this is actually quite useful and I'm going to use it in my Spanish classes and across my courses.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. How about if I would have something to add, I think all of us, but how about if, do we have questions from the audience? Maybe we could start questions and then we can respond, and there is some time left we can do.
I think it's working. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so very much for your contribution. Christine, I had a question for you. I was wondering, because you said that your teachers, when they started, their main concern were their PowerPoints, right? But you said that they really found that there were other problems when they started actually teaching. So what did they find? Because I think that would be interesting to see if the problems that they found were the same as we found, you know? That's why I'm asking. Thank you.
Yeah, well, they started teaching, and suddenly their lessons were more boring. One teacher reported that she was very good at when the spirits are low in the classroom, tell a joke, and then get the class with her again. And she felt that she couldn't do that in English because her English, she was not funny in English, and she was very funny in Spanish, and that was the problem. And I think that this is a symptom that she was adhering to a culture of only English, and I cannot stop my lesson to tell a joke in Spanish, which is what is needed now, for example. And that gave, this led us to a discussion whether it was legitimate or not to tell a joke in English and in Spanish while you are teaching a lecture in English. This is just an example of how long we went discussing when it was legitimate or desirable to switch into the L1 and for what purposes. Then there was the thing that the students didn't contribute as much to the lectures as when they are in the L1. When you have a very large group, students do not volunteer very often to contribute, but when the language is in English, they found that the same one or two students were the only ones contributing. So they needed to develop strategies to get not everyone, but many of the students to say something and to contribute to the development of the lesson. And they started using, because one important difference in our case is that our teachers are pedagogues. And in this sense, they plan their lessons and they know how to do lesson plan. And the difference was how to introduce in their lesson plan something related to a language-related goal. So in our case, our teachers were very conscious from the very beginning that the degree was there so that the students improved their English. However, they believed that was going to be automatic. They would use English, and students, like by magic or incidentally, if we want to use the the term would acquire English, and they started to see that that was not so automatic, and that the students were having problems not so much in understanding, because they were making an effort, and they reported on the extra effort they had to make in order to convey the messages to the class, but the students to contribute to the lesson, so interaction in the classroom, and also in the essays or in the report that the students were asked to do. They said that the students didn't know how to write that, and at the beginning they said, this is not our problem, and then, well, I told them, well, whose problem is it then, sorry. And they started to reformulate, and we introduced one way of writing goals, because they did write goals for their lessons. And the suggestion that they should start the way they wrote a goal, instead of using a cognitive verb, which was the majority of them using cognitive verbs, like understanding or knowing, using a discursive verb. Writing, narrating, discussing, or arguing. So this little change in the way that we asked them to plan their lessons started to make a change in the way they saw how they should provide support to learners, because in the end, it was a matter of providing support. So the big change in year one from the teachers, from the same teachers in, let's say, July to the following July, was that the initial concern of the teachers was on the PowerPoints and their English, the teachers' English. And in the next July, the main concern of the teachers was in the students' use of English, students' participation, and the support that the students needed. And at the beginning, rejecting that it was their responsibility, or not, but rejecting is a bit stronger word, but not assuming that it was their responsibility to provide this discursive or linguistic support, and little by little introducing ideas which I thought they were great. I mean, in one subject, they had to read Alice in Wonderland. So the teacher decided that text in first year was far too difficult, not only because of the language, but mainly because of the cognitive load that it had. So she invited the students to have a copy in Spanish or in Catalan next to the copy in English, so to move from one to the other. And they started to use this type of practices, or many different types of practices, in order to provide support to students.
Yes, more questions from the audience to any of us? Oh, sorry, Anne. Yes.
With respect of these multi-disciplinary projects that are going on in our Facultad, where the professors collaborate, they're non-native teachers. They have our support, of course, but they create their own things. And I was just amazed by these projects that they created, because they're based on communication. And these communication projects help the language development. So you're actually giving the students extra support, no? And so I asked the teachers, the professors, I said, how do you feel about this experience, no? Doing it in another language, and of course they go through the whole process of like going to another country, getting used to it, acculturation, all the things that you go through, and they find they have a certain complicity with the students, because they're both learning at the same time, and they've also had to take their subjects apart and put them together again, which is the essence of, I know some people don't like the thing about the CLIL approach, but the essence of CLIL is all teachers are CLIL teacher, whether you're doing it in the mother tongue or the second language. So how can we make language meaningful? By using all these different resources we have and making communication, facilitating communications, as Ana Ruiz said in her presentation yesterday morning, and developing values and working in groups, which we have in our collaboration projects, not only among the professors at the university, but also the students working together and collaborating. So I think that's something to look for also. Thank you.
All right. Going back to the idea of having lecturers plan their lessons and actually have a piece of paper in front of you. I've done some work with content teachers. It was not only until they wrote their lessons that we realized which were the demands, the language demands they were putting on students. In many cases, skills which were far beyond the level of the students. So we have a look at the framework, but also in the materials that we're going to use, so we could extract what kind of language skills were actually needed for those lessons, and we could implement something for those students who didn't have those language skills. Typically, professors would tell us, okay, and then in this lesson they have to comment on a graph. I'm not sure the students knew the word graph. They would use graphic, probably. And they don't know how to say when things go up and when things go down. They don't have the vocabulary. So we devised something online for the students. That was remedial. Do you think that, and this is for both Emma and Matthew, do you think that this skill of planning your lessons, but also being aware of the language behind it, is something that you should teach pre-service, or do you think this is something that English departments and linguistic departments could help with, perhaps? For those content teachers who are doing EMI, have a look at their lesson plans and say, okay, but make sure that your students know about this and this. Which is your take? Do you think this is a skill that the content teacher should have, or can we help them in some way?
Thanks for the comment and the question. I think it's a skill that they should have, and that language specialists can help them with. I think it's good to start with a distinction, perhaps, with Anna and Christina was saying, and it's a terminological one to do with EMI and CLIL. It's very difficult, as we know, to tell a content teacher who might not have been trained to teach that they are now an English teacher. We know that from Aries papers in Sweden, I am not an English teacher is the maxim there. And so it's to be kind of very, very gentle about it and actually convincing them that, as linguists, we know that reality is language. But for a physicist, it's atoms, and for an artist, it's colors. And so we have perspectives on these things. So for me, it may be starting with the English, because that's the main concern at the beginning, and then we shift to the I of the EMI, and they get some methods and learn how to plan, and then maybe shifting back to the E. Once they've been convinced that they've got the English and they can teach in it and have the confidence, then they can go back and start thinking about the language they're using. I think I'm getting further away from your question, but yes, the planning itself and thinking, okay, this is you're not an English teacher, but you are dealing with a potentially multilingual classroom, and that may be one person from another country, or it may be an Erasmus, totally international group. So as language teachers, we teach multi-level, multilingual groups, and we've been exposed to the kind of difficulty of doing that. And so I think content teachers can usefully learn from that experience. And so the kind of pitching of inputs, balancing the cognitive linguistic demands of tasks, if you're having tasks, which would encourage, and basically how to set that up and how to pitch it at the right level, and how to scaffold this in a way that you can get the most, you can harvest the most from it, yeah? And that may be, working in groups and peer teaching and kind of stepping back a little bit.
I'll just add to that. My experience teaching these lecturers that are going to do it through English, one of the things that we try to do in the group is remind them that they're the experts. They're the experts. Most of them have been teaching for many years, not always, but we're probably getting younger people now because there's a generational change as well. But really empower them. They know the content. They know what they're talking about. their language skills could be improved, who cannot improve something, and really kind of giving them the confidence so that they can realize that they have a lot of the things that they already need. We do a lot of reflective practice and a lot of awareness raising, and then they think, oh, you know, but and this idea of getting them to realize that they have all the experience or a lot of the experience, but at the same time we're setting up a different context is important. I would disagree with these intensive courses of language, which I think we've all mentioned, that, you know, think that that is a problem. I think Tom was saying that. But we cannot disregard them either, because of course if people do not feel confident enough and able enough, then that's going to be the PowerPoint syndrome. You know, I need to translate my PowerPoints. So once that threshold is kind of there, I think we can very much leave the teachers to bring in their own reflections, and they're the content experts. You know, I learned so much about the ways that they look at reality, and we've had really interesting discussions in these intercom sessions, courses which were not about epistemologies, about how content is, you know, built in the different disciplines, and you had the optician talk about how they look at light, and then you had the fine arts. It was really, really interesting, and they were getting to a metaphysical level that was really, really interesting. I think in the Spanish setting, the teacher development courses have never been a requirement. They haven't even existed, and some of the teachers that have come to our sessions have never done any teacher training, any teacher development, and therefore it's an eye-opener. But one of the things that I think we lack at Complutense is kind of following up on these teachers more regularly. I think that is something that I would really want to do, and I've been pushing it, and having more regular meetings with the teacher to see what Cristina was saying, this change of attitude from the PowerPoint syndrome, I think I'm going to keep that, to the reflective, and to gaining more confidence, and to being much more able. I'm kind of organizer and speaker and everything, so, and we have it's 25, yeah. So one more question if possible, and then we move to the presentations, and we can start the plenary like 5 minutes late, 8 minutes late, because then we do have a little bit of time. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. Just one question for Cristina. How do you do with the internships in the degree?
We have 5 internship periods, which in fact is 4. All of them are 12 credits long, and in the initial design of the degree, all of them were to be done in English, and 3 of them were to be done in English, and the 4th corresponds to la mención, to the, so if it's the English mención, then it's English. If it's the music one, then it's not English. However, it was after the first cohort went through this plan, it was analyzed that these students were not having any teaching practice through Spanish or Catalan, and that didn't make sense at all, especially if the ones that took la mención de Inglés. So it was decided that one of the practicum, which is based in the teaching of language, the L1, and mathematics, this one should be kept to the national languages, so it should be done in Spanish or Catalan. So the other 2 are done in English. However, what does it mean to do the practicum in English? That's the second question. So basically means that the practicum conferences, which are weekly, are carried out in English. The memoria, the practicum report, is done in English. And how about the teaching in the schools? We don't have so many schools as to have everyone in what you call here in Madrid bilingual schools, and in our case, it's not bilingual schools, but schools with CLIL programs. So these students usually do some teaching in English, in the CLIL program for the school, and some teaching in Catalan mainly. However, the proportion of students in the English medium degree that opt for doing the practicum in other countries, let's say Europe, but also the United States, Australia, New Zealand, is very, very high. And we've been able to organize, like, to put together all these practicums so that they can do a whole term wherever they decide to go. So the proportion of English practicums for these students is higher. But we don't have enough schools for all the students who want to, who are in the degree. So that and not enough schools with good CLIL teaching practice that we want to send the students to. And in that case, we prefer to send the students to a school which does not have a CLIL program if we are not sure that the CLIL program is going to be a good training model for them.
That's interesting, because in Madrid it's different. We don't have enough teachers for the bilingual schools. So maybe...
Well, but you got to think that in our case, English is the third language. It's the L3. So in primary schools, there are many schools having CLIL programs, but not in the same way that you have them here in Madrid or in Andalusia, where the percentage is so high. So the percentage of hours done in English in many of, especially in the public sector, is much lower than the ones that you have here. Although the Department de Enseñamiento is very committed with CLIL programs, but they are implemented there in very different ways from the way they are implemented here, as is normal, because we are moving in an area of a third language, a school language, apart from the near to 13% of students from migrant origins with languages different from Spanish or Catalan.
Yes, just to follow up on the same point, our Mención students do all of their practice teaching in English in the bilingual schools. I'm a tutor, so I visit these schools, and I can see a big turnover in the type of practice that is occurring in schools today. They're doing tremendous things. The teachers are participating in UNESCO projects and European projects. They're doing exchanges with schools abroad. And then these students have to do their memoria de prácticas and their TFG in English, which is quite a load for us as teachers. And so what we've done is we've created an academic writing course. And after creating the academic writing course in English, they decided that maybe they should do it in Spanish. So we have the first one in English, which is still being used and done for our students, and this year they started one in Spanish because the Spanish students were saying, and how about us? Okay, because once again, these are transferable skills. The problem is they haven't been taught to write in school in the mother tongue, and those, would be skills that would help them then in writing within English. So, that's a double development for us there. Once again, CLIL is whatever language you're using.
Well, thank you very much. We need to stop now and go to the presentations. And we meet back here for the plenary session later. Thank you very much. Thank you, members.